Hello, good morning. My name is Catarina Albuquerque. I am the UN Special Rapporteur on the human right to safe drinking water and sanitation. I'm very happy and pleased to be able to address it, even if not in person, since, as you can see, I'm in Budapest at the World Water Summit. And because I am a special rapporteur, I was also very much involved in the JMP work that was done in the past 2 years regarding the identification of targets and indicators for WASH for the post-2015 agenda. And in that context, I chaired a working group on inequalities that aimed at identifying proposals, coming up with proposals on how to integrate the progressive elimination of inequalities into the future development agenda in the areas of hygiene, sanitation and water. And why did I have this idea, and why is this topic so dear to me? Because in the country missions that I undertake as UN Special Rapporteur, I systematically come across situations of marginalization, of exclusion, of groups of people who systematically do not benefit from progress that has reached the majority of the population. And I am thinking of people belonging to ethnic minorities, people living in rural areas, people living in informal settlements, homeless people, older people, children, people with disabilities. So there are certain groups of people who seem to be excluded from progress and from the achievements the world has made in the area of sanitation and water worldwide. So what have we done? Bearing in mind, and in the working group, I'm talking about the work done within the JMP working group, which was composed not only by human rights lawyers, actually we were in the minority, but counted with the contribution and presence and participation of statisticians, economists, WASH specialists, people specialized in doing household surveys, etc. So we came up with a proposal aimed at determining the average rate of access in a country. For example, regarding, I'll give you an example of sanitation. The rate of access to sanitation in urban areas and the rate of sanitation in rural areas. So imagine that you have a rate of access to sanitation in urban areas of 60% and in rural areas of 20% or a little bit below 20%. So this means that the gap between, first, you are measuring these differences between, you don't have just an aggregate number of 50% of access or 40% of access to sanitation in the country. You actually identify a disparity that exists between rural and urban, and obviously we can do it for formal and informal, for the average population and for an ethnic minority, for example, for the average population and for persons with disabilities, also, for example. So let me go back to the initial example. So you have a gap of roughly 40% of 40 points between urban areas and rural areas. What does it mean? It means that, and I guess that you have received this two-pager, it means that you have this 40% gap. It means that you still have the advantage group, let's call it advantage group, we mean the population living in urban areas. The advantage group still has to make progress until 2030 or 2040 to reach full access to sanitation. So, but if you compare this rate of progress with this rate of progress, you obviously will consider that, you will conclude that the rate of progress necessary for the people living in the rural areas must be much stronger, much faster, precisely because we have to level them up with those living in urban areas. So, and this is the only way to make sure that we get universal access. Otherwise, what the current MDG framework has shown us is that progress will not trickle down automatically. If we don't have targeted measures to reach those who have been excluded, they will not automatically or by miracle get access to sanitation and water because they are not figuring in a prominent manner in national and international development agenda. So if we want these people to get access, they have to be at the forefront, and we have to find mechanisms as this one to making sure that these people will be targeted in national and international policies, that they are relevant for national governments, for local governments, but also for the UN system, for multilateral donors and for bilateral donors. This system will enable us to see whether the rate of progress that is being done, for example, between 2015 and 2020 is enough. Maybe if it is not enough, it is too slow for for example, for the rural population, we still have a chance to correct it, to increase it, so as to making sure that in 2040 the rate of progress will be the right one and we will achieve universal access. This solution, this proposal, also not only enables us to check progress, to even have a traffic light system that national governments can use themselves to assess whether they need more efforts or they are on track or not. They can receive a green or a red or an orange, depending on the situation. But what I have been advocating for, together with my colleagues, other special rapporteurs, is that this scheme, this idea, this proposal can also be used for other areas, for other development areas, as education, maternal mortality, healthcare, etc. So I'm sorry not to be able to respond to questions, but there are people in the room, namely Clarissa, who can do it brilliantly. And I wish you all the best for your discussions, and I count on your help and your support to making sure that such a proposal and a commitment to eliminate inequalities gets to the post-2015 agenda. We cannot satisfy ourselves with a simple declaration of good intentions. We have to have more. We have to have a commitment to eliminate progressively inequalities in access to wash. Thank you for your attention.